The evening light casts a warm golden hue through the wooden slats of the tavern windows in Erisrin. The air is filled with the robust aroma of hearty stews and the scent of burning firewood from the hearth. Around you, the atmosphere is convivial but subdued, as the villagers of this isolated hamlet have little to celebrate these days. Zelkan, you find yourself seated on a rickety wooden stool, your long elven ears picking up the faint murmurs of locals. Conversations touch upon the strange occurrences in the nearby crescent forest, talk of wandering spirits and enchanted groves. Others speak of bizarre weather patterns over the lake to the northwest, where fog rolls in so thick it blurs the boundary between water and sky. A small group near the bar debates the potential riches or perils that might be found within the mountain ranges to the south and west, mentioning an opening through which none have returned. As you sip a mug of frothy ale, you contemplate your next move. Your keen elven senses tell you that something significant is afoot, something that goes beyond mere talk and tavern chatter. Your eyes drift toward the door as it creaks open, admitting a gust of chill air and a hooded stranger who locks eyes with you briefly before taking a seat in a shadowy corner. As you take another sip, the complex flavors of the locally brewed ale dance on your palate, a hint of woodland herbs, a trace of honey. Despite the distraction of the drink, your elven senses remain alert. You sense a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The room falls just a bit quieter as the hooded stranger removes his gloves and reveals hands that appear weathered and scarred, as though marked by years of hard combat or arcane rituals. One of the villagers, a robust man with a beard like knotted oak, stands up to leave. He casts a furtive glance at the hooded stranger and then toward you, as if weighing the importance of words unspoken. Finally, with a nod more to himself than anyone else, he approaches your table. "Given traveler," he greets, eyes twinkling yet cautious. "Name's Braun. You've got the look of one who's been places, seen things. That true?" Braun seems to be a straightforward individual, but carries an aura of guarded curiosity. Your intuition senses a deeper inquiry behind his question, perhaps a measure of your abilities or your intentions.
"I've been a few places."
Zelkan trailed off, allowing the man to get to the point. Braun's eyes narrow just slightly, as though measuring the weight of your brief words. The lines on his face seem to deepen for a moment before relaxing. "Aye, I thought so," he says, glancing once more at the hooded stranger before leaning in closer. "See, we're a peaceful folk here in Erisrin, but something's been upsetting that peace. Livestock gone missing, strange noises from the crescent forest, fog over the lake thicker in a dwarf's beard. Folks are scared." He pauses, looking over his shoulder as if to ensure that his words aren't being overheard. "We've sent some of the village boys to look into it, but they've not returned. And now this stranger walks in, same time as you. Makes me wonder. It does." Braun meets your eyes with a look that borders on desperation, clearly struggling with whether to ask for your help or maintain his community's prideful independence. "You wouldn't happen to be interested in, say, investigating some of these strange goings-on, would you?" he finally asks. Zelkan sets his mug down on the table.
"I'll help investigate."
He looked back over at the hooded stranger, then back to Braun.
"You wouldn't happen to know anything about that man, would you?"
Zelkan questioned and gave a slight nod in the direction of the hooded man. Braun follows Zelkan's nod to the hooded stranger, who seems engrossed in a small leather-bound tome he has placed on his table. "Him?" Braun shakes his head, clearly uneasy. "Never seen him before today, but he doesn't sit right with me. Shows up unannounced, just like the other strangeness round here. If I had to guess, I'd say he's more than he seems." Braun straightens up, his eyes meeting yours with a renewed sense of hope. "I'm glad you're willing to help, Zelkan. If you're venturing out, I'd start with the crescent forest. That's where most of the oddity's been happening. Got a feeling you might find some answers there. Oh, and..." He hesitates, as if weighing his next words carefully. "If you do find something, you be careful. Not everything in that forest is what it seems." With that, Braun takes his leave, nodding respectfully before departing to converse in hushed tones with another group of villagers. You're left with choices, Will you head straight to the mysterious Crescent Forest, make further inquiries in the tavern, or perhaps approach the hooded stranger who has so captured the locals' curiosity? Zelkan gets up from his chair and walks over to the hooded stranger.
You mind if I have a seat?
He asks. Zelkan figures that if he was to go out into the wilderness, it'd be best to have a partner or group rather than by himself. The hooded stranger looks up from his leather-bound tome as you approach, his eyes briefly meeting yours. They are a deep blue, almost like the color of twilight, and they hold a certain wisdom, or perhaps weariness, that immediately catches your attention. He closes the book softly and gestures to the empty chair across from him. Please, have a seat, he says, his voice laced with a cultured accent that doesn't match the local dialect. As you sit down, you get a closer look at the stranger. Despite his hood, you glimpse eldritch symbols embroidered along the hem of his cloak. His hands, though scarred, move with a graceful precision as he stows his book away into a satchel by his side. I couldn't help but overhear some talk of strange occurrences in this hamlet, he begins, choosing his words carefully. It seems you've offered to investigate the matters afoot. Quite admirable. My name is Erevan, by the way. I am a seeker of sorts. Knowledge, primarily. His eyes lock onto yours once more. And who might you be? What brings you to this far corner of the world?
My name is Zelkan. I tend to wander about with no goal in mind.
Zelkan replies.
I'm assuming you're not from around here, are you?
He asks. Erevan's eyes twinkle with a quiet amusement at your question. Ah, a wanderer. An admirable occupation, if one can call it that. There is much to learn from the road less traveled, wouldn't you agree? He takes a pause before addressing your inquiry. As for your question, no, I am not from here. I hail from places distant, both in space and perhaps in time. My journey is one of purpose, though that purpose has often eluded me. Erevan leans in slightly, a conspiratorial glint in his eyes. If you're willing, Zelkan, perhaps we might pool our resources. I too have an interest in the oddities plaguing this hamlet, and in such matters, 2 heads are often better than 1. Moreover, it's seldom wise to venture into cursed woods or enchanted lakes alone. His words hang in the air, laden with an offer of alliance, yet tinged with the mysteries he himself embodies.
I agree.
Zelkan agrees to party with the new stranger to work the mysteries of the land around them. Shortly, a moment later, the door to the tavern swings open forcibly, but not terribly violent. A big half-orc steps through the door. All heads in the tavern turn to see the commotion. The half-orc proclaims,
Takek thirsty.
which seems to be the orc's name. Takek walks over to the barkeep and orders an ale.
Many rumors were told to me.
The orc explained. The atmosphere in the tavern shifts noticeably as the half-orc named Takek makes his entrance. Villagers exchange wary glances, but there's also an underlying sense of intrigue. After all, it's not every day that such a diverse group gathers in the small hamlet of Arisren. Takek's proclamation breaks the tension somewhat, eliciting muted chuckles from a few patrons. The barkeep, a stout man with a bushy mustache, promptly serves Takek a massive mug of ale, which the half-orc receives with a grunt of approval. Erevan watches the scene unfold with visible interest. Ah, the world is indeed full of characters. What do you make of our new companion, Zelkan? It's rare for half-orcs to wander into hamlets like this, unless driven by compelling reasons. As he speaks, Takek takes a deep swig of his ale, then wipes his mouth with the back of his hand.
Rumors say strange things happen here.
He says loud enough for most in the tavern to hear.
Takek likes strange things. Maybe find something interesting.
The half-orc's words, straightforward and to the point, offer another potential angle to your upcoming adventure. You sense he could be a formidable ally, or at least a source of considerable muscle. Erevan leans over and whispers, Shall we invite him to join our investigation? The more the merrier, as they say. And in uncertain times, strength in numbers could be advantageous.